You sound like a British person. No, I'm just teasing.
Irish. I'm Irish. You gotta get that right.
Well, Great Britain, British.
No, Irish, Republic of Ireland.
My goodness.
There you go. That's very important.
Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to this in-depth exploration of Thin Lizzy, one of Ireland's most influential rock bands. In this video, we're going to examine the band's origins, the formative years of its frontman Phil Lynott, their artistic development, internal challenges, and the enduring cultural legacy they left behind. If you're interested in Irish music from history to traditional, folk and modern rock even, consider subscribing to stay up to date with future videos like this. A like on this video helps support more content as well. Now, let's begin our journey into the world of Thin Lizzy. Formed in Dublin in 1969, Thin Lizzy holds a distinctive place in rock history. Their sound combined the energy of hard rock, the soulfulness of blues, and elements of Irish traditional music. Central to the band's appeal was Phil Lynott, a singular figure in rock music, not only for his songwriting and stage charisma, but also as a black Irishman who became a cultural icon in a predominantly white conservative society. Songs like Whiskey in the Jar and The Boys Are Back in Town became anthems that solidified their place in international rock. To really understand the band's rise, we must consider what society was like in Ireland back in the 1960s. Dublin was emerging from economic stagnation and developing into a centre for artistic experimentation. Folk revivalists like the Dubliners and the Chieftains were elevating traditional Irish music on the global stage. In Belfast, Van Morrison and his band Them were channeling American blues and soul into a distinctly Irish context. Morrison's exposure to American music was influenced by his father, George, who worked in the Belfast docks and frequently bought home imported records, exposing Van to artists such as Leadbelly and Ray Charles. At the same time, the growing political unrest in Northern Ireland, the early years of the Troubles, was reshaping public discourse, and music became a critical form of expression for Irish youth. Rock and soul records from Britain and the United States were flooding into Ireland, and young musicians began to synthesize these influences with local storytelling traditions. In this climate, Thin Lizzy emerged as both musical innovators and cultural commentators, infusing global rock with an Irish sensibility that made them stand out from their contemporaries. Philip Paris Lynott was born on August 20th, 1949 in West Bromwich, England, to Philomena Lynott, an Irish woman, and Cecile Paris, a man of Afro-Guyanese descent. Philomena was just 18 years old when she became pregnant, and at the time, being an unwed Irish teenager with a child was heavily stigmatised. Social and cultural pressures made it extremely difficult for her to raise Phil herself in England. After his birth, Philomena moved to Manchester, but she made the difficult decision to have Phil raised by her parents in Dublin. His grandparents, Sarah and Frank Lynott, welcomed him into their home in Crumlin and raised him with love and stability, providing a safe and nurturing environment, despite the societal prejudices of the era. Although Phil grew up apart from his mother, the two maintained a strong and affectionate relationship. Philomena remained a consistent presence in his life, though she later reflected that she felt more like a big sister or close friend than a traditional maternal figure. Despite the unconventional family structure, their bond endured, and she was a fierce supporter of his music career from the beginning. Raised in Dublin by his grandparents, after being separated from his parents at an early age, Lynott experienced both love and alienation. Crumlin, his working-class neighbourhood, was overwhelmingly white, and Lynott, one of the only black children in his community, faced isolation but also developed a unique identity grounded in his Irishness. Lynott quickly distinguished himself, not only because of his racial background, but also due to his confidence and creativity. According to former classmates, Lynott embraced his identity without reservation. He was known for his sharp style and magnetic personality, and he often used wit and humour to disarm prejudice. His love for music became evident in his teenage years, inspired by legends such as Elvis Presley, Otis Redding, and particularly Jimi Hendrix, another black musician who defied norms and expectations. Lynott's first band, the Black Eagles, allowed him to cultivate his skills as a performer and frontman. It was during this time that he met drummer Brian Downey, with whom he would develop a deep musical rapport. After a short stint with Skid Row, where he briefly collaborated with guitarist Gary Moore, Lynott turned his attention to songwriting and learning the bass guitar. His ambition extended beyond performance. He was determined to shape his own musical vision. In 1969, Lynott and Downey joined forces with guitarist Eric Bell and keyboardist Eric Rickson to form Thin Lizzy. The name was inspired by Thin Lizzy, a robot character from The Dandy, a British comic book, and also referenced the Ford Model T, a symbol of industrial resilience and working class ingenuity. Under Lynott's leadership, the band began to forge a sound that blended raw power with lyrical nuance. Thin Lizzy's first two albums, Thin Lizzy in 1971 and Shades of a Blue Orphanage in 1972, showcased potential but failed to capture a wide audience. However, the band's fortune shifted in 1972 when they released their electrified version of the Irish folk ballad Whiskey in the Jar. Originally a traditional song about betrayal and outlaw rebellion, it was a staple of Irish folklore and pub sessions. The decision to record it wasn't premeditated. It came about during rehearsals and studio experimentation, encouraged by their label Decca Records, which hoped for a more radio-friendly single. Eric Bell later remarked that the band didn't take the song seriously and were even hesitant about releasing it. Despite the band's misgivings, Whiskey in the Jar exploded in popularity. It struck a chord with both Irish and British audiences, not only for its familiar melody, but for how it fused traditional storytelling with electric guitar riffs and Lynott's soulful delivery. The cultural weight of the song, rooted in Irish identity and anti-establishment sentiment, made it relatable during a time of political unrest and cultural reflection. It reached number 1 in Ireland and broke into the UK top 10, effectively launching Thin Lizzy into the public consciousness. Although Lynott saw it as somewhat at odds with the band's heavier rock direction, the exposure proved crucial for their future success. Following the departure of Eric Rickson and later Eric Bell, and after several lineup experiments, Thin Lizzy entered a new creative chapter with guitarists Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. This period saw the band begin to refine their signature twin guitar attack, a sound that would come to define their golden era. The band's real turning point came with the release of Jailbreak in 1976. The album marked a dramatic leap in both commercial success and musical maturity. At the centre of it was The Boys Are Back in Town, a song that captured the swagger and solidarity of working class youth. Originally it wasn't a frontrunner for release as a single, however radio DJs began playing it and the track quickly gained momentum. The song's chugging guitar riffs, Lynott's charismatic vocal lines and vivid lyrics, evoking pub camaraderie, local legends and nocturnal reunions, it hit a cultural nerve. Lynott's lyrical storytelling in The Boys Are Back in Town offered more than just rock bravado. It was a romanticised portrait of friendship and mischief, laced with pride and nostalgia, especially for those living on the margins. It became an anthem for reunion and youthful defiance. The track reached number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became their signature song in the United States, opening the door to American tours and international acclaim. Jailbreak as an album also signalled Thin Lizzy's full arrival as a world-class rock band. It featured tight production, layered arrangements, and a sense of confidence that set it apart from their earlier work. The band had successfully bridged commercial appeal with artistic integrity, and Lynott's leadership was key in maintaining this balance. By the 1970s, Thin Lizzy had evolved from a promising local act into a formidable force on the global rock stage. Their ability to mix raw energy with poetic storytelling resonated with a wide audience, and the momentum generated by Whiskey in the Jar and The Boys Are Back in Town established them as enduring icons of Irish rock music. Throughout the 1970s, Thin Lizzy honed a distinctive musical style that fused hard rock with melodic storytelling and a uniquely Irish lyrical sensibility. While their earlier work had shown promise, it was the 1975 album Fighting that began to crystallise their identity. The record marked a deliberate shift towards a tougher, more aggressive sound. It reflected the band's growing confidence and willingness to engage more directly with themes of identity, rebellion and working class life. Tracks like Rosalie and Suicide illustrated a newfound edge, both musically and lyrically. With the back-to-back releases of Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox in 1976, Thin Lizzy reached a creative peak. Jailbreak was a major commercial and artistic success, blending dynamic guitar work with Phil Lynott's increasingly sophisticated lyrics. Songs like Warriors and the title track showcased the band's twin guitar harmonies and energetic rhythm section, while Lynott's narratives dealt with characters on the fringes of society. Johnny the Fox, released later the same year, continued this trend with a more introspective tone. Tracks like Don't Believe a Word and Borderline revealed Lynott's range, not just as a rocker, but as a storyteller able to tap into emotional complexity. The hallmark of their sound became the twin lead guitar harmonies, introduced by guitarists Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. This technique, in which two guitars perform harmonized leads or melodic counterpoints, created a richer and more textured sound than the typical rhythm-led configuration of most rock bands. It allowed Thin Lizzy to seamlessly blend hard-edged riffs with lyrical, almost orchestral guitar passages. This innovation gave their songs both precision and depth, making live performances particularly compelling. Gorham and Robertson's tight interplay and timing became central to the band's sonic identity. This dual guitar approach, melodic yet aggressive, set them apart from their contemporaries and influenced numerous bands in the heavy metal and hard rock scenes. Groups like Iron Maiden, Metallica, and Judas Priest would later adopt and adapt this style to great effect. Subsequent albums like Bad Reputation in '77 and Black Rose, Rock Legend in 1979, demonstrated both lyrical depth and technical sophistication. The latter album in particular explored Irish folklore and national identity in tracks such as Roisin Dubh, Black Rose, where dual guitars elevated the narrative with sweeping, expressive solos and interwoven harmonies. Music critic Martin Popoff, a respected authority in the world of rock and metal journalism, has lauded Thin Lizzy for maintaining a balance between musicianship and emotional resonance, often achieving both within a single track. Popoff, known for authoring over 85 books on hard rock and heavy metal, was a co-founder and senior editor of Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles, one of the genre's most trusted publications. His work, marked by in-depth analysis and an archivist's attention to detail, has shaped the critical conversation around bands like Thin Lizzy, Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. His praise underscores the musical credibility Thin Lizzy achieved during their prime. Other prominent critics such as Dave Ling from Classic Rock, Tony Clayton Lee, The Irish Times, and Phil Sutcliffe from Mojo have also recognised the band's unique sound and cultural footprint. Their assessments help frame Thin Lizzy not just as a hard rock act, but as a band that expanded the artistic and emotional possibilities of the genre. These voices in rock criticism affirm Thin Lizzy's lasting importance in both Irish and international music history. Despite their creative success, Thin Lizzy struggled with a persistent undercurrent of internal instability that increasingly threatened their cohesion. The first major disruption came in 1973 when founding guitarist Eric Bell left the group after a New Year's Eve performance, citing exhaustion, health concerns, and dissatisfaction with the band's direction. Bell's abrupt exit forced the group into an impromptu search for a replacement, leading to a temporary return by Gary Moore, whose virtuosity added a new intensity but also introduced interpersonal friction. Moore was known for his perfectionism and strong opinions in the studio, which sometimes clashed with Phil Lynott's more instinctive lyrical approach to songwriting. The tension between Moore's meticulous technical standards and the band's more intuitive, groove-oriented workflow led to friction during rehearsals and recordings. While there was mutual respect between Moore and Lynott, their contrasting personalities created a volatile dynamic that would resurface during Moore's later stints with the band. The eventual recruitment of Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson as dual guitarists ushered in what is widely considered the band's classic lineup. Their chemistry was undeniable, giving rise to the twin guitar harmony sound that would become Thin Lizzy's hallmark. However, even during this creatively fertile period, the band was frequently beset with behind-the-scenes tensions. Robertson's heavy drinking and occasional clashes with Lynott both personal and artistic, strained group dynamics. One well-known point of contention came during the sessions for the Bad Reputation album in 1977. Lynott was frustrated by Robertson's unreliability, especially when the guitarist missed recording sessions after an incident in which he cut his hand in a fight at the Speakeasy, a popular London club. Lynott saw this behaviour as self-destructive and unprofessional, while Robertson, feeling cornered, became more defiant. Their tension reached a breaking point when Lynott chose to bring in Scott Gorham and producer Tony Visconti to complete the album without much of Robertson's input, essentially freezing him out of creative decisions. These issues came to a head in 1978 when Robertson's continued drinking and a second injury in a bar fight once again sidelined him, effectively leading to his replacement and opening the door for Moore to step back into the fold. The pattern of instability soon became a defining feature of the band's history. Moore himself would come and go multiple times, and later replacements like Snowy White and John Sykes brought technical skill but had to adapt quickly to a group whose lineup was in constant flux. The emotional toll of these changes was significant. Thin Lizzy was operating at a breakneck pace, writing, recording and touring with little pause. And this relentless cycle exacerbated existing personal struggles within the band, particularly issues related to substance abuse and burnout. Phil Lynott himself struggled with increasing dependence on alcohol and heroin, particularly in the early 1980s, a period during which his physical appearance and performance began to noticeably deteriorate.
Do you think we'll ever see Thin Lizzy back on a stage again, or is that now something completely in your past?
There was something in the paper, in the Daily Mirror yesterday, I think, saying that Thin Lizzy were going to get back together again. And there was a quote from the management saying that we might get together to do a charity thing. We all keep in close communication. I mean, I was working with Scott recently.
Bandmates and close associates have since recalled late-night binges and drug use that affected not only Lynott's health, but also band productivity. Others in the group, including Brian Robertson, had also reputations for heavy drinking, which sometimes disrupted recording sessions and tour schedules. While Lynott's leadership and songwriting vision provided some continuity, the ongoing turbulence and substance-related issues began to sap the band's cohesion and creative energy. By the mid-1980s, Lynott's health had deteriorated due to heroin addiction and heavy alcohol use. Years of relentless touring, mounting personal pressure and growing dependence on substances had taken a toll not only on his physical condition, but also on his creative output. His marriage to Caroline Crowther, daughter of British entertainer Leslie Crowther, had become strained, and despite fathering two daughters, Lynott was increasingly isolated. He collapsed during the Christmas season in 1985 and was admitted to Salisbury Infirmary, where he was diagnosed with kidney and liver failure stemming from septicemia. Despite medical intervention, his condition worsened rapidly. On the 4th of January 1986, Phil Lynott passed away at the age of 36. The cause of death was multiple organ failure and pneumonia. The music world mourned the loss of one of its most original voices, and in Ireland his passing felt especially poignant. An Irishman of colour who had broken cultural and musical barriers was gone far too soon. Lynott's funeral in Dublin drew a large crowd of fans, family and fellow musicians. His mother, Philomena Lynott, became a guardian of his legacy, later writing a memoir, My Boy, that detailed their complicated but deeply loving relationship. She remained a visible advocate for her son's recognition, campaigning for statues, documentaries and tribute concerts in his honour. Following his death, Thin Lizzy officially disbanded, unable to continue without their charismatic frontman. However, the band's music only grew in stature. Over time, Scott Gorham and other former members reformed Thin Lizzy with new lineups, presenting tribute tours that celebrated the band's catalogue while paying respect to Lynott's irreplaceable role. These efforts were not attempts to recreate the original Thin Lizzy, but to keep the music alive for fans old and new. Lynott's death marked not just the end of an era for the band, but a significant loss for rock music as a whole. His influence continues to be acknowledged in the works of countless musicians and bands from Ireland and beyond, who cite him as a pioneering voice in the blending of cultural identity, poetry and rock. Thin Lizzy's legacy is etched deeply into the fabric of rock and metal music. Their groundbreaking dual guitar harmonies were a direct influence on a host of bands that emerged in the late 1970s and 1980s, particularly in the burgeoning new wave of British heavy metal. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and Def Leppard have all cited Thin Lizzy as a formative influence, particularly admiring the balance they struck between melody, technical proficiency, and storytelling. Perhaps even more significant was Phil Lynott's influence as a frontman. One of the first black musicians to lead a successful international rock band, Lynott broke racial barriers in a genre that had largely marginalised artists of colour. His commanding stage presence, poetic lyrics, and ability to weave personal and mythic narratives made him a rare and charismatic figure in rock's history. His identity as both proudly Irish and proudly black challenged stereotypes and expanded representation within the music world. The band's reach extended beyond hard rock circles. Metallica's popular cover of Whiskey in the Jar in the late 1990s reintroduced Thin Lizzy's music to a younger generation, affirming their cross-generational appeal. The cover earned a Grammy and revitalised interest in the band's original catalogue. Artists across genres, from punk and metal to indie rock and folk, have praised Lynott's lyricism and the band's commitment to the craft. In Ireland, Thin Lizzy occupies a sacred place in the national music consciousness. A statue of Phil Lynott stands in Dublin, just off Grafton Street, and his influence can be seen in the generations of Irish artists who followed. Whether through the lens of musicology, cultural identity, or sheer rock energy, Thin Lizzy's contribution remains both foundational and enduring. Phil Lynott was not only a musician, but also a poet. He published 2 volumes of poetry, Songs for While I'm Away in 1974 and Philip in 1977, both of which explored themes of love, struggle, and identity in language that mirrored his lyrical style. These collections offer a glimpse into the interior world of an artist whose public persona was often larger than life. Thin Lizzy's live album, Alive and Dangerous in 1978, produced by Tony Visconti, is frequently ranked among the greatest live rock albums ever released. Though there has been debate over the extent of post-production overdubs, the album captures the band at the height of their powers and remains a fan favourite. In 1979, the band toured Yugoslavia, an unusual destination for a Western rock band at the time. The tour was seen as a symbolic moment, bridging East and West during the Cold War era, and demonstrating Thin Lizzy's willingness to reach new audiences. The band's manager during their peak years, Chris O'Donnell, would later go on to help launch the career of Def Leppard. His early work with Thin Lizzy was instrumental in shaping their international strategy and growing their appeal beyond Ireland and the UK. Thin Lizzy was also one of the first bands to appear on the iconic BBC music programme Old Grey Whistle Test, further cementing their position within the British rock elite. These lesser-known moments highlight the band's innovation, ambition, and enduring appeal. Thin Lizzy's music defied the conventions of their time, blending hard rock with a sense of depth and storytelling that few bands could match. Phil Lynott's vision as a songwriter gave their sound a distinctly literary quality, while his voice, gritty, soulful, and unmistakably Irish, brought that vision to life. Rather than simply embracing the cliché of rock and roll, Thin Lizzy tapped into working-class emotional, national identity and a sense of personal vulnerability. Their music often walked a line between toughness and tenderness. Lynott's lyrics didn't just paint scenes, they told stories, sometimes tragic, sometimes romantic, often steeped in character-driven narrative. The band's use of twin lead guitars, a signature element of their sound, gave their songs a dramatic, almost cinematic quality that elevated them above many of their contemporaries. This stylistic innovation, paired with Lynott's lyrical sensitivity, made Thin Lizzy a band of rare distinction. Their legacy isn't just found in their influence on other musicians, but in how they pushed the boundaries of what rock music could express. Few bands so convincingly fused street-level grit with poetic insight, or national heritage with global relevance. Although the band's journey was marked with instability and ultimately tragedy, their contribution to music remains undeniable. From working-class stages in Dublin to arenas across the globe, Thin Lizzy left a mark that still resonates. Their music lives on not only in the records they left behind, but also in the countless artists they inspired. More than a rock band, Thin Lizzy became a symbol of Irish resilience, creativity, and pride. And Phil Lynott remains one of rock's most enduring and beloved figures. In an interview, he was asked, "What is it like to be black and Irish?" And he replied, "Like a pint of Guinness." So that's it for the video. Thanks again for watching. As always, if you really enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. It would mean an awful lot to me, and it would really help me continue to create content like this. And I'm always reading the comments. Let me know down in the video what you thought. Also, if you'd like me to make a video about anything got to do with Irish music, give me a shout. This video that I made, and the last one on the uilleann pipes, were made off the back of a comment left on a previous video. So I'm always reading them, and I love hearing from you. If you'd like to see something in particular, just drop it down in the comments and I'll definitely work on it for you. So look, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great day. All the best.